I got into politics in 8th grade, at Tea Party meetings, listening to the right wing scream about freedom and liberty. But here's the thing, none of it was real. It was hollow slogans, a mask for what they really wanted: control. Control over people they didn't like, control over the world they didn't understand. Because the GOP never stood for liberty. They stood for the freedom of the already powerful to hoard wealth, to dominate, to dictate who gets to live with dignity and who suffers. I saw the hypocrisy play out over and over again, and every year it pushed me further left. But it wasn't just mainstream conservatism. Online, I fell down the conspiracy rabbit hole. End timers, right-wing militias, Alex Jones. I was 13, consuming hours of fear-mongering every day. Now, I'll be real with you. For a while, it made sense. It gave me an explanation for why the world felt broken. Then I lost my faith. And when I did, the whole thing collapsed. By the time I was 17, I was a transhumanist. And when Alex Jones released Transhumanism in the New Dark Ages, I was already primed to see through the bullshit. That was my red pill moment. Ironic considering Jones has been vindicated in some ways. He was right that billionaires like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are trying to build a corporate techno-feudal state. He was just wrong about everything else. But at the time, I wasn't some paranoid reactionary. If anything, I was too optimistic. Back then, I still believed in Silicon Valley's promise. I thought the tech elite could usher in a better world, that innovation and progress could naturally override corruption. I saw transhumanism as a liberatory force, a way to break free from biological limits and expand human potential. But the cracks were already showing. It was becoming increasingly clear that the best system to handle emerging technologies, AI, robotics, space exploration, wasn't one built around profit. It was one built around people, one where technological advancements weren't funneled into the hands of a few oligarchs, but distributed for the good of all. That video, it just finished the path I had already been on since 2010. By then, I'd been slowly moving left, questioning capitalism's ability to handle rapid technological change. Transhumanism in the New Dark Ages didn't scare me into reactionary thinking. It confirmed what I already suspected. That if we let the billionaire class dictate the future, it won't be a future of human liberation. It'll be a new kind of feudalism, with them as the monarchs of a world where progress is privatized. And that's why I doubled down on anarcho-transhumanism, not out of fear, but because I saw exactly what was at stake. If the billionaires wanted to use technology to enslave humanity, then the only rational response was to build technology that liberates us instead. And the biggest irony? Jones, the self-proclaimed fighter against the New World Order, is now licking the boots of the very people building a corporate techno-feudal state. Watching that unfold just reinforced what I already knew. The real fight isn't against some shadowy cabal. It's against hierarchy itself. I walked a path that should have made me vulnerable to the incel mindset. Isolated, online, surrounded by reactionary ideology. But it never happened. And here's why. I come from a long line of strong women. My mother was a powerful, independent woman, same as her mother before her. Generational absentee fathers on both sides meant I grew up watching women hold the world together while men ran away. I didn't even know my mom had a dad until I was in my 20s. He left when my mom was a child, just as my dad did, never showed up, never took responsibility. So when incels blame women for everything, when they whine about rejection, about not getting what they think they deserve, I never related to that. All I saw growing up were women grinding through struggle while men dipped the fuck out. Weak men, cowardly men, current MAGA men. I saw the truth. I saw it in my own family, in my community. Incels think women are the problem, that feminism is the enemy. But what I saw What I lived was the reality. Weak men failing themselves and everyone around them. They refused to grow. They refused to take responsibility for their own loneliness, their own failures, their own stagnation. And instead of looking inward, instead of becoming better, they lash out, blaming women, blaming degeneracy, blaming everyone but themselves. Because here's the truth. Weak men crave control. Strong men seek growth. And that brings us to the real masculinity crisis. Not the one MAGA, fascists, and the Manosphere scream about, the decline of traditional manhood. That's a farce, a cover for their own insecurity. The real crisis is the death of self-actualization. The collapse of the idea that masculinity is about becoming, not possessing. The enlightened man doesn't cling to control because he understands that true strength comes from adaptation, from intelligence, from wisdom. He doesn't need to dominate because he has mastered himself. And that's what terrifies reactionaries. Because what is fascism if not the ideology of weak men afraid of change? What is MAGA if not a cult built around a broken man who never grew up? And what is the Manosphere if not a sad collection of men who believe they are entitled to women instead of earning connection? The alternative to all of this, the real path forward, isn't some return to an imaginary golden age of masculine values. It's the path of the enlightened man. A man who doesn't fear change, but masters it. A man who doesn't see women as the enemy, but as equals, as fellow travelers in the struggle for meaning. A man who sees responsibility not as a burden, but as a privilege. And this terrifies the Manosphere because it means letting go of their excuses. It means acknowledging that their suffering isn't the fault of feminism or immigrants or trans kids or woke ideology. It's their own stagnation, their own failure to evolve, their own refusal to grow. So what do we do if we reject the failed models of control, of hierarchy, of reactionary resentment? What comes next? We redefine masculinity as a journey, not a rigid role. We stop measuring strength by how much we suppress and start measuring it by how much we expand. We embrace technology, knowledge, and transformation, not just for ourselves, but for the world. The future isn't for men who cling to dying systems. It's for men who evolve, who innovate, who create. This isn't about rejecting masculinity. It's about rebuilding it. Not as a prison, but as a path. Not as a burden, but as a becoming. The weak men will keep clinging to their fantasies. They will keep blaming. They will keep crying about the death of masculinity while doing nothing to live it. But for those ready to break free, the door is open. The path of the enlightened man isn't about control. It's about mastery. And that journey, it starts now.